I'm not sure I have this mode anymore. I've been on the attack, taking shots at this program for so long. I'm finding it really hard to go back in the other direction here. I mean, it took me forever to get my stuff done last night after the game because I just couldn't find the words. It's been so long since I've seen this Wisconsin program get a meaningful win like they did Saturday at Washington with a 13-10 victory over the 24th ranked Huskies. Look, you can still feel the way you want to feel about Chris McIntosh, Luke Fickell, and the future of this program. It's okay to stay cynical. In fact, I'd probably advise that still. But Saturday night was just therapeutic for a lot of reasons. If you were there at Camp Randall Stadium, it was almost nostalgic from what you were seeing out of this team and this crowd. It felt really good again to be back in the stadium with just that special energy and see a Wisconsin team fight and punch for 60 minutes the way they did. It's a lot easier to get up on Saturdays, when you see something like that. I don't care who you are, player, coach, fan, media like myself, I think needed that for a lot of different reasons. But man, it just felt like the good old days again for 60 minutes. I don't know how long it's going to last, but for 60 minutes, that felt like, classic Wisconsin football there.
Yeah, you can tell obviously the fans needed it, the community needed it, but really this team needed it. The players, the coaches, staff members, they needed to feel that winning energy again. And it was really cool to see the videos of the guys running into the locker room, celebrating, dancing. Like they haven't had that feeling, especially against a big or a ranked team in a big game like this. We technically haven't had that feeling since 2021.
Yeah.
So being able to uh, have that again and have that feeling and being able to celebrate with your teammates and enjoy all the hard work that you do, because coaches and players work their absolute tails off week in, week out to have these outcomes. And when it doesn't happen when you want, it makes it really hard. The hard work makes it even that much harder to do and to put in week in, week out. And for them to be able to do that and to enjoy it, and that they really needed that. And it was really cool to see just all those guys celebrating and just being back in that Wisconsin mode of winning football games and being able to celebrate the wins and the hard work. So I know that to-go food after tasted really good for those boys.
Again, I just thought the best part of Saturday, and I think I said this late third quarter, early fourth quarter, but I was getting goosebumps up there in the press box. I say it was therapeutic, and not just talking about the fans and the team. I'm included in that because I'll just be honest. I have not looked forward to covering this team and getting up on Saturdays and driving into Madison and watching what I've been watching. It's a job. It doesn't matter how I feel. People are paying me to do it, but I found myself in the post-game press conference just feeling happy for Luke Fickell, feeling happy for this team. You could tell there was a giant weight lifted off his shoulders, and then the photos are coming into my email, and you're just seeing the raw emotion from the players who are overcome with joy because they got this win that, probably have taken a lot of shit from people, including myself. And now they can clap back and have their moment a little bit. And like I said, just a giant weight off their shoulders to be able to get a win like this. Heck, just a win in general. They had lost 11 in a row against Power 4 competition. But, with all the BS in this sport now, I've maybe grown as cynical as anyone. There's probably a few exceptions out there, but it was just nice to be reminded again that, okay, this is what it's still about. There are still kids in that program who absolutely care about this place, love this place, and want to push the program forward.
You could tell with that after the game when you mentioned the raw emotions. I mean, I think that's the most authentic emotions that we saw out of Luke Fickell in front of the media, I think, that we've ever seen since he's been here. And you can see that what it genuinely means to him, what it means to the players, what it means to these staff members. I mean, there's something contagious in a positive way in the energy when Wisconsin's playing good football in the middle of the game and then winning the game. Like it just changes the entire atmosphere of Madison. Like you can clearly tell. And hopefully this gives the guys the motivation to build off of this and to be able to create something even larger here to finish the end of the season and going into next season. Because now that we have a plan, right? We know Luke Fickell's coming back in 2026. This is a big win of a response from that news from the staff and from the team. So that's something that they can build on from this win. I mean, they just got to keep stacking and keep stacking, and hopefully that is the motivation to be able to continue that going into next week as more challenges come. But we don't even need to talk about that yet. I just think it was really good for those guys to feel that again and to feel just what you reap, like reaping what you sow with the hard work that you put in, because winning's hard.
You know what? Also with the crowd, give them a lot of credit. For the first time in a few home games, there were no Fire Fickle chants. Now it helps that Wisconsin gave them something to cheer about. I mean, there was a different level of energy and intensity on their end, on both sides of the ball, not just the defense, but that crowd, I'll talk about this later, had an impact on that game and certainly affected Washington's offense a few times. And like I said, for the first time in a while, you just felt kind of that crowd and that team. They were one. They were together in this. It wasn't this divided feeling that we've had the last couple of weeks at Camp Randall and really the last season and a half. And it started when Carter Smith entered that game. I don't know if you could hear on the telecast, but there was a little roar, when he gets the nod there at quarterback. Obviously, you don't like to see Danny O'Neil go down and yet another quarterback injury. I mean, if I'm Carter Smith, I'm taping myself in bubble wrap for the next game after seeing what's happened to Wisconsin quarterbacks every game. He's got to be careful, especially with how much he runs the ball. Now, Carter Smith couldn't throw it worth a lick. My king, Sean West, outgained him through the air. He was Wisconsin's leading passer with 24 yards, but what Smith was very effective with his legs, 15 carries, 47 yards. He and Gideon Atuka really kept Wisconsin ahead of the chains all night. They only faced 2 third and longs against Washington. Their average distance to go was 6 yards. What did you see out of Carter just to be able to handle the moment and really, I don't want to say it's hard to describe what he did because you look at the stats and, he's 3 of 12 passing for 16 yards, but there was an effect it felt like he had on that game and on that offense.
He definitely made an impact. Now, sometimes you just got to be a football player, and we kind of forget that this kid is a true freshman. So you're
Yeah.
getting the nod for the first time. You're going out there as a true freshman. I mean, you're trying to execute what you've been working on, but this guy was probably playing scout team a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And with the way that this QB carousel is, I mean, he probably wasn't planning on playing today because Danny O'Neil, if he doesn't get hurt, he's probably still playing, which would be my
They've been
guess.
just put it out there. They've been prepping him for 2 weeks. But
They've been
he
Carter
was on the
Smith.
scout. He started in the bye weekend, first team reps. But yeah, before that, he was sitting in the back of the QB room and only did scout stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And well, I mean, just in the fact of you have minimal prep from the whole season, I guess,
Yeah.
up until the last couple weeks. But then as a true freshman going in there and trying to execute the game plan, that's a whole nother dynamic of just being young and being in your first college football game, trying to survive. And the way that he was just able to be a football player and execute what he was told to do. Now, throws, the good thing is he didn't turn the ball over. And
Yeah.
so being able to execute in that way of taking care of the football and then ground and pound in the run game, that kept Wisconsin ahead of the sticks. Like you said, they were never behind the sticks because if you're in third and long in those situations, I mean, there's
It's
no way we
over.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no way we can extend drives that way. So he did what he was asked to do in this game plan and he executed it. Kid played hard and was just a football player. And sometimes that's what it requires to win the ball game.
I always say don't watch the first start, watch the second. I think that'll tell us a lot about Carter Smith's ability to potentially start the rest of the season. There was no film on Carter Smith going into that game. Washington had no way to prepare for him. Indiana now also doesn't need to spend a whole lot of time learning him. There's only one game of tape out there, only 12 throws, And this is where offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes really has his work cut out for him, because everyone and their mother knows Grimes is really only going to stick to the stuff that Smith does best. And they're only going to go out there against Washington and throw out the stuff that Smith is most comfortable with, and protect him. And so now they kind of got Indiana, a team like Indiana's kind of got tipped off on, who Carter Smith is and what he does best. Grimes wasn't going out there. I'll just channel my inner John Gruden, but the calls weren't triple right zebra, banana hammer, spider Y twist, X flip, right? I mean, it was simple stuff that they know the kid can run, and not going to put a ton on Smith's shoulders. I mean, we saw the regression with Danny O'Neal after Middle Tennessee. We saw it with Hunter Simmons after Michigan. It's natural that it's going to happen in that second start, or I guess technically it's Smith's first start, but second real extensive action here. I don't know if there's a game that comes to mind. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I know you guys have faced first time quarterbacks before. What's maybe the challenge when you don't know the guy coming in? Say, I think Michigan, Cade McNamara, I believe, had to come into that game in relief, so you didn't know him, versus maybe a guy getting his first or second start when there's limited film on him. From a defensive perspective, how did the two kind of compare?
Yeah, you kind of got to feel out the quarterback if you don't have any film on him. I believe Drew Pine came in when we knocked Jack Cohn
Okay,
out
yeah.
of the game. That was one of the probably a few times that we've knocked a quarterback out of the game, and the backup comes in, and I mean, you have to feel him out. You don't know really if he can run. You don't. I mean, we talk about it. We talk about it in the weekly prep, but there's not film on him to really tell, like, how can he really throw the ball? How comfortable is he in the pocket? How does he look off his receivers? How does his cadence? When he snaps the ball, we don't know. So you're really feeling out the first couple drives. Then you get back to the bench as a defense. You're like, all right, this kid can do this, or hey, he's really good at this, or this guy sucks. Like, we can get after him all game. It's it's really just a feel out throughout the first couple drives. Then you kind of know who he is as a player. But yeah, you don't know until you're out there for 10, 12 plays.
Which quarterback sucked?
I don't even want to say it because we didn't win the game, so I'm not even gonna say it.
Oh, so Jack Cohn. Okay, we'll move on.
It was Jack Cohn's backup, and we're like, man, we can get after this guy all game. And of course, the score was what it was after. I think he threw for a passing touchdown too. So I mean, it doesn't even matter.
More about the game. How much easier is the game of football when the offense and the defense really complement each other the way they did on Saturday? You want to know why Wisconsin won that game with 24 passing yards. I think you just look at the field position battle. Wisconsin was playing in Washington territory all game. Meanwhile, the Huskies were on their side of the field. Average starting field position for Wisconsin was their own 45. Average starting field position for Washington was their own 25. Washington had 5 drives that started inside their own 15, including the last 3 of the game, and those ones where they were backed up into the Wisconsin student section, as I said, made a real difference in that ball game. It wasn't a great offensive night for Wisconsin. They barely got over 200 yards, but it felt like a different type of performance because of that field position battle, because they were spending so much time in Washington territory. They won the time of possession battle. And, even though Wisconsin did next to nothing offensively, it was Washington who was stressed all game.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before of the defense playing at a high level, right? Like against Oregon, like playing at a high level, but just trying to take advantage of what they give you to create game-changing plays, the turnovers.
Yep.
And they got a few last night, and especially when Posa went in, stripped the ball, and I mean, almost picked up and scored. Like, that's a game-changing play. That changes the momentum of the stadium, the sideline. I mean, that type of stuff is what kind of the missing piece of what Wisconsin's defense has needed in the last several games, and they started to do that, right, and then it created an opportunity for the offense to have a scoring opportunity in such a low-scoring ball game. So those type of things is contagious, and then you just feed off of it. And then now you create some belief and momentum that you can go out and go get it again, go do it again. And offense has belief that they can go and score, even if it took, 10 yards, but they believe they can go drive down and score.
Are we sure Jim Leonard is not back in some capacity? I mean, that defense felt like old times again. I mean, when's the last time we saw a really good quarterback just get dominated and rattled by the Wisconsin defense in that capacity? I rewatched the broadcasts, and you could just tell Damon Williams was shaken, kind of looked bewildered at times. Again, I don't know if the conditions had anything to do with it, but we're talking about Washington here. We're not talking about Texas or Miami. They've seen snow. They know what it is, and it wasn't like it was snow by the time it was hitting the ground anyway. But it got to the point where Washington almost didn't want to throw the football anymore. And we talked about Williams a little bit on the last podcast in terms of what Wisconsin was going to be going up against as a runner. Outside of that first big one he had in the first quarter, the Badgers kept him contained all game long. He didn't have those game-breaking runs that just take the top off the defense and kind of steal your will there, especially when they come on third down. This was also a Washington offense that doesn't give up sacks, doesn't give up negative plays. Wisconsin got 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. I really like this Husky team coming in. Like I said, Williams is one of the premier quarterbacks in the Big Ten. That wide receiver, Denzel Boston, is a pro. But what adjustments are you just seeing from Mike Tressel these last 2 weeks? Because the Oregon performance was really encouraging as well, and there just seems to be a different attacking mindset out there.
Like you just said, it attacking. I don't know what it is, but the last couple weeks, these guys have attacked the football, whether it was in the air or on the ground, and you got runners of the ball constantly, and then you got some hunters just going for the ball. So then when you create turnovers, you got guys coming in and just running and hitting, um, running to the ball. I mean, that's such a like a cliche and simple term, but if
Right.
you got 11 hats running to the ball every single play, those are the results that happens. And you just see it. I mean, there's been a change. I mean, I didn't get I haven't watched the tape of this game, like the actual tape, but I watched the tape of the Oregon game. Um, it was probably a week after the Oregon game. I had access to it, and oh my gosh, like these guys are running to the ball, playing their with the hair on fire. So I don't know what it's been, but that's been a huge difference in my opinion. And then just the ability to take away the football, obviously, again, I mean that will change the game in a heartbeat. But I'm honestly shocked that Damon Williams didn't get knocked out of the game. He took so many hits,
Yeah.
and being able to and creating havoc, in the pass game for him to have to go and try to get yards on the ground, he was getting smoked. It was really fun to watch. It was fun Badger defense, and it nostalgic, like you said.
You touched on it, but the game-changing, momentum-changing plays is something this defense hadn't been doing, and it goes back to what I said about complementary football. When UW gets those plays, the game becomes a lot easier, and they can help out a struggling offense. Everyone will talk about the Mason Posa strip sack, and rightfully so. Wisconsin doesn't win that game without that play because I don't know if the offense is going 30, 40 yards to get a touchdown. They only had to go 6 on that play to tie the game when Carter Smith runs it in with his legs. Ricardo Hallman, really bad throw and decision by Damon Williams, but you get an interception in the end zone that potentially saves 3 or 7 points as well. The turnover on downs early in the game as well when, what was it? Washington was on the other side of the 50, looking to strike first, essentially acts as a turnover. And the number I was really encouraged by on when Washington was facing third or fourth down and short, 3 yards or less, Wisconsin won that battle 4 out of 6 times in the trenches. They were able to stuff the run by Washington.
I think that just goes to show the penetration and the movement up front that we have, and it showed versus Oregon too. But I think showing it again against Washington just reveals how consistent this defense is starting to get, especially up front. it's the confidence, it's the play speed, and then it gives Tressel the confidence in his scheme and his game plan. You're starting to put players in position to make plays. I love the stunts on third downs that they're doing as
Yeah.
well. I mean, with their backers, and the, Mason Reiger is even if he's not in on the play, he makes an impact on probably 95% of these plays, and just him being out on the field and him doing what he does. Um, it's again, it's really fun to watch. They just got to keep this consistency and this confidence that they're having week in, week out as a defense. It's perfect timing to have this going into their next game.
So now I'm going to the grocery store, liquor store, wherever, and everyone's telling me they're out of varsity ale because fans have been rushing there all morning to try and secure more money to keep Mason Posa and Cooper Catalano for the entirety of their career. Posa, 11 tackles, 2.5 sacks, a pass breakup, has the stop to close the game on Williams, who again is a terrific runner. Catalano might as well be in high school with the numbers he's putting up. 19 tackles in a Big Ten conference game. I love the way these two kind of complement each other too. Catalano's that guy who's just got a nose for the football, always around to play. He can cover up some of the mistakes and Posa's your game wrecker, right? You'll see Wisconsin line him up on the edge. They want him blitzing up the middle. They want him to be the guy that, the offense always has to know where he is. And like you said, maybe that frees up Mason Reiger, somebody else. But, Posa's the guy that can flip games for you on defense. I know it's only 2 games, but it seems pretty obvious Wisconsin's got something special with this duo.
And what's really cool is being a freshman and making those type of plays.
Oh yeah, I didn't
I
even
never
mention they're true freshmen.
Yeah, they're true freshmen. I mean, which shows the ceiling that they have, right? But also from their standpoint, when you're that young, and I didn't have this experience of being a true freshman and just making a bunch of plays and having 19 tackles in my first couple college football games. I learned through mistakes and getting my ass whooped. These guys are learning through success, which there's pros and cons of that, right, on how you handle it. But I think the confidence that they're having right now and how good of players that they can be because they're doing it on the field week in, week out right now, it's awesome because it's so rare to have these situations of freshmen having such success early on. And it just creates that confidence for when they play week in, week out against these other opponents. But yeah, they're a rocket ship that's about to take off, in my opinion. So it's fun to watch.
I had a whole segment written down about the end of the first half because I was pulling my hair out again, and
Yeah.
I'm sure. Well, not that you were pulling your hair out, maybe the beard hair, but I I don't know if I should let it go because they won. It wasn't just a decision to lie down and go into halftime again, not take a shot. But there's the Gideon Atuka penalty. Maybe that's where we should go with it. Because at the time, you get this 15-yard penalty that takes you out of field goal range. You get where Atuka's coming from, standing up for a teammate. Washington stood over a player and, kind of taunted him a little bit that, might have probably should have been a flag. However you want to look at it, I don't know. In the moment, you're talking about a Wisconsin offense that can't really afford to piss away points, and you're 2-6 and you do something like that. Obviously all's forgiven now. Wisconsin won the football game, but just with the penalty from a freshman to kind of get that in that spot, were you okay with it because he was coming to the aid of a teammate, or do you just look situationally and say, we can't afford that right now?
I think all in all, you can't afford it, right? I mean, our offense isn't good enough to be able to do those type of things and afford those penalties. Like we're not. But also, it was kind of a soft penalty from all he did was
Yeah.
just bump into the defender. And I mean, to defend Wisconsin on that, when I believe it was Vinny Anthony, when the ball was thrown at him, the kid launched right at the back of his knees, and I think that's what pissed off Atuka to be able to go in and try to stand up for him. So, but it was soft, a soft penalty in my opinion. But you can't afford to even risk that. You can't play with fire, especially in those situations. Like, we know that we're struggling in the air and trying to get it downfield. We can't be pushing the ball back. That's points. That's points. I mean, you can defend them later, defend them after the game, and you can, get held back or whatever it is, but not right now. I mean, we can't afford penalties. So, I mean, and again, Atuka's a young kid. He's a young player. These are all learning experiences for him too. And, yeah, but yeah, it's a tough situation, but you can't afford. We're not good enough to afford those type of penalties.
So another reason I didn't want to touch on the decision at the end of the half was just because I felt like Fickle did a lot of what we were asking in other parts of the game, and that's essentially roll the dice, be aggressive, play with a nothing to lose mentality. They did go for it on 4th and goal in a 0-0 game in the first quarter. Now, I probably would have taken the points, but I'm a sissy. I like points. I don't like risk. But I also understand, it'd be hypocritical to, from what I've been saying the last couple of weeks, hypocritical to kind of criticize Fickle for, trying to make a game-changing decision there. And then, of course, again, my king, Sean West, with the fake punt. I know Wisconsin didn't get points out of it, but again, goes back to what they were able to do with field position and pinning Washington deep. What did you just think of the game Fickle called overall?
I thought the same thing you did. Like, oh wow, maybe he's hearing us, or maybe I don't know. I don't know if he listens
Luke
to the
Fickle
podcast or
listens to the
not.
Badger Red Zone podcast. Breaking news.
But going for it on 4th down early on in the game, I mean, yeah, you want to probably take the points, but I mean, we've been talking about, you got nothing to lose, you got nothing to lose, you got nothing to lose, and he went for it and tried to get 7 points out of it. I can tip my cap to that.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that they were trying to do the same thing going into the first half, driving down, and then the penalty hurts them. And I'm thinking, at least, try to throw the ball downfield, get something out of bounds real quick, and then try to make a chunk. I mean, and then we go from trying to push the ball downfield to just, let's screw it, just run it out.
Right.
And we put in Dupree's first play of being back from injured is the run to end the first half. I'm like, is that Dupree? What's going on? Well, why are we giving him the ball in his first carry back as an injury with a run that doesn't even matter? I didn't understand that. But all in all, though, I mean, I think playing with nothing to lose, he really did that. In a lot of ways, other than that, to end that first half. I mean, I think we can tip our cap, and obviously it won them the game. So I think they found a way to win the game with what he called.
And the defense, too. Mike Tressel never let off Damon Williams. I think at some point it would have been easy to kind of sit in a shell and just hunker down and pray that you get this win. But they didn't let the game go in Washington's hands. They took it for themselves and determined that outcome. So our best clips, our best stuff really comes when you're irritated about something. I'm not sure we have anything Wisconsin football related to give you. So, I mean, is there anything going on in your life that, you want to rant about? The neighbors being too loud, coworkers steal your lunch. I mean, you got anything that we can use for a hanger on this episode?
Hey, I don't. All's good in Dallas, Texas. I'll tell you that. I'm not, and I'll say this too. Like, it's fun to also change up and finally start talking about the great things about what
Yeah.
Wisconsin's doing. I really, I love encouraging these guys, bringing life into them, and talking about how good of a job that they're doing and where this program's going. I would love to talk about that more than anything else. But it's hard to when you don't win a game from the end of or from September all the way into November. I mean, it's hard to do that. So I'm really happy to be able to just talk about all the fun things Wisconsin did, from last night, and talking about a win. And, it reminds me of just that feeling of you wake up the next morning after winning against, a big opponent in Camp Randall. Your body's sore. You can't really get out of bed too well, but you get in there, you get a lift in, you walk up to the 8th floor, talk to your coaches, you watch the film, you played well, you have a nice smoothie and victory meal in your system. That's the type of feeling that I got from waking up, and I wasn't even there, So it's just fun to get back into that environment and that energy.
Well, I'll keep digging for that nerve until I find it. I'm pretty good at that. Ask my wife. So I know how much you love mid-season announcements surrounding the future of the head coach, and I understand this kind of feels like old news, secondary news after what happened Saturday night, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it yet. In my mind, the wind doesn't change a whole lot about what I've had to say for the last couple of weeks, especially early this week when I talked about the announcement. The points weren't necessarily about bringing Fickle back for 2026, at least what I said this week. I've said if you're going to bring him back, I mean, at least tell us why. Give fans, give the media something tangible to hang on to, not these vague, long-winded statements that really give us no information. I don't know if you watched the video at Badger Connect when it came out. I forked over $10 to watch it. So when Wisconsin's able to steal Bryce Underwood here from Michigan next year, I want everybody to know that I was the difference that made it happen. But McIntosh, for 12 minutes really didn't answer any questions. He the biggest thing, I think everybody wanted to know is what changes are going to be made next season that's going to put this in a different direction. And I'll just read the quote here, at least how it started. I think one of the things this season has shown us is that we can identify the challenges and the challenges we face this season, and that allows us to develop a plan. And trust me, the rest of the answer doesn't get any better. I think a lot of people were fuming just not because of the decision itself. I mean, we've known for a couple of weeks now that Fickle was going to be back in 2026. This was just the official icing on the cake. But the inability to kind of take a half-ass accountability and be unable to resonate with the fans in any way, I think was what a lot of people had problems with.
Yeah, I think you really see why his statement before that was from his desk and it was a letter because you put a microphone in front of him and it's a disaster more times than not. All it does is just piss off the Wisconsin fans more. It doesn't really give us an answer to anything or a solution to anything. Basically, all it was a lot of jibber jabber with just saying that Luke Fickle's coming back for 2026. That's it. I mean, I didn't really take much else out of it because if you try to take something too personal out of or too if you take it too personal out of what he's saying, it's just going to piss you off even more. So I did not pay the $10 to listen to the whole thing. I listened to a few clips on Twitter, and I mean, I think that was it for me. I didn't want to go into too much more detail.
You didn't miss anything, but another one of the questions was, did you consider a coaching or a change at head coach, and why is Luke Fickle the right guy to keep at this time? And he lists some traits about Fickle, which again, very vague and could have applied to basically every head coach in this business, with the exception of, well, he grew up in the Big Ten. He's got Big Ten roots. And it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that's what it took to win championships around here. That makes everyone feel better. But, the other part of it, too, is, I get it. We don't get to see Chris McIntosh behind closed doors. It might be completely different than what he's putting out there on camera or in these interviews. But the other thing I found striking was, I mean, this is a guy that won a Rose Bowl. He was the Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year when he was at Wisconsin. He played in the NFL. How can he feel so content about what's going on? It just doesn't make any sense, the attitude and like I said, half-assed accountability. And then, you end the video by basically asking everyone for more money.
Yeah, it, it it doesn't make any sense to me because on paper, his resume, he embodies everything that Wisconsin football is built and what it is. I mean, he's been a winner there, and he's lived the dream of playing at the next level. He kind of understands what it takes to be an impact and a great program leader at the University of Wisconsin as a player. So then now the message and the disconnect to the fans and to the the city in a way of everybody wanting better out of Wisconsin football. I don't really understand where that disconnect comes from. It just doesn't really make any sense. I mean, even just the disconnect probably some of the players on how they're feeling with this, or how and this isn't even with Luke Fickle returning. This is just with the explanation of the vision of how to get Wisconsin back to winning. There's I just don't know if he's a poor motivator or what. Like if he just can't do a motivational speech and he's just never one of those guys, so you don't put him in front of a camera to talk about it. I don't know. I don't know McIntosh well enough to know if he should give a pregame speech or not, but I don't think he should. So, because you think that there's just no way that like this guy won a Rose Bowl and was successful as a player at Wisconsin, played in the NFL, that's once better for Wisconsin football. Just it doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it was like watching a politician. You know, he said a lot of words without really saying anything, but
Yeah,
again, it all came back down to money and needing a bigger investment into the football program. And one of the best reasons, I'm supposed to be impartial, but one of the best things that came out of Saturday's win, and some people will fight me on this, and I expect them to, but can we finally put the NIL is what's holding this team and this program back issue to bed? I mean, yeah, we all agree a $20 million roster would change some things, and it probably wouldn't be, I shouldn't say probably, it wouldn't be as big of an uphill battle for this team going forward. You know, if they had that type of money and, they had depth to get over these type of injuries, more talented players. I'm not arguing that, but I've watched enough Northwestern this season. I've watched enough Purdue. I've watched enough Minnesota, South Florida. The money isn't what's stopping this team from playing sound football, from not shooting themselves in the foot constantly like they've been doing the last year and a half, 3 years. That's not the problem. I think we can safely put that to bed because you just beat a really good Washington team by throwing for less than 50 yards and your punter was your leading passer. You were able to do that with what you've got in the locker room. To me, I feel like that's the end of, not that, people shouldn't invest in this program if things start to turn around. I'm not, fighting that, but I'm just tired of the narrative that money is the reason Wisconsin fell to the bottom of the Big Ten.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, and Jack Sitchy said this actually a few weeks ago, but and I just completely opened my eyes about the whole perspective of NIL, and we don't have enough money to get good players. Wisconsin has never gotten the highest recruits. Very rarely
That
that we
too.
got really high recruits. Wisconsin's always had a different formula of success when it came to getting players, developing them, and creating NFL talent and creating good teams. It was never with the 5-star recruits. We've never competed with Ohio State anyway. Very rarely that we did. Maybe with our O linemen, maybe with a few skill guys here and there. Naming Hunter Waller just because I'm thinking that. But I mean, we very rarely competed and did what everybody else did. Wisconsin's going to do what Wisconsin had a unique formula in how they're going to bring players in, develop them, and create championship football. Like that's just how we've always done it. And so the excuse of we don't have the money to get the best players, well, guess what? We've never gotten the best players ever. Ever. That's just how we've been. So how can we be unique? How can we be different in how we approach the NIL, how we approach the players, and how we develop these kids? Because development was different before the NIL era. You can redshirt kids, they're going to stay there for 4 or 5 years, and you got 4 or 5 years to build with them. Well, now you can't really guarantee that they're going to be there for 4 or 5 years. So how can you keep players there? How can you develop them in the way that you want to? There's got to be a unique approach. There's got to be a different formula because we never done it everybody else's way. We've always done it our way, and so there's got to be a different approach to it. And I think the excuse of not having enough money is BS as well. Now, don't get me wrong. If you got oil money like Texas Tech and you go and buy a bunch of players, I mean, that helps a ton. That helps a ton. Don't get me wrong, but we've never done it everybody else's way. The Wisconsin way has always been unique and different. They just have to find that.
So I just figured out the solution when you brought up Texas Tech. You're already in Texas. Start an oil company. Send the funds to Madison. I think it's a
let's
solid plan.
let's go start drilling, and then we'll have a pipeline
Drill,
from
baby,
Texas to
drill.
Wisconsin.
There you go. But one thing I will say, again, the money's going to help. I think it'll obviously encourage players to stay around for 4 or 5 years and develop. Like you mentioned, you won't have maybe as many Xavier Lucas situations where you get arguably your I don't want to say best player, but maybe best NFL prospect ripped away from you in the between seasons. And there's also the fact that the walk on is basically dead, and that pipeline was huge for Wisconsin to be able to find a guy or two each season that would develop into a starter. They don't have that anymore. But okay, Saturday was great. Unbelievable feeling to be there and see it unfold. I can't imagine what these players are feeling. Now the challenge is you got to flush it, because you got a team in Indiana that looks like they could really win a national championship. And I know Saturday, maybe got away from them a little bit, but that was the first time that they've kind of looked human, in the Kirk Cignetti era when it comes to playing down to their competition, I guess. The only team that's really gave them trouble in this 2-year run here was Ohio State last year in Columbus. I mean, they have the ability to make quality team. They have the ability to embarrass quality teams, let alone a 3-6 Wisconsin squad. I don't know. I find this an unbelievable challenge to flush out all the emotions a lot of these guys were feeling, because most of them have never felt that before. They certainly haven't felt it at Wisconsin. They may have done it at other programs, but Saturday was different. How do you come into the facility Sunday, put together a whole week, and put it past you and say, okay, let's not let that be the highlight of our season?
Yeah, there's two ways that you can look at this as a team, as a player. You can be extremely motivated from this high. So, you have that high yesterday, that emotional high, and then you carry that forward into today, and then you carry that into the next day, the next day of prep. And you have that motivation to be more detailed, to be more dialed in, because you want to feel that feeling again. And the feeling's only going to get higher if you can win this game, right? Like, this is the number 2 team in the country. Kurt Cignetti has a target on his back every single week. This is kind of the guy that you'd want to take down. I mean, the emotions would even escalate from what you felt this past week. So you can either use that motivation, be able to climb yourself up and be prepared for this game at Indiana, or you get a little bit tired from being out on State Street all night and you don't really want to do the lift. You don't want to put in the work. And then you're kind of dragging the next day, and then you're not doing the details to prepare your body and prepare your mind for practice. And that stuff builds, right? So that you can either use this emotions to be exhausted from it or to elevate you. And that's the challenge for this team. And they haven't felt it all year. So what's that maturity for these guys? We need to handle it in a very mature way, and let's hope that the leadership and the maturity rises for it.
Wildest post-game celebration you ever had during your time at Wisconsin?
Post game, I mean,
Paul Chris isn't there anymore. Jim Leonard's not there anymore.
we never got too
You got
crazy on State
okay.
Street. I'll say this, but so all the guys, I don't know if this is bad or not, but all the guys, all the freshman kids, couldn't really get into the bars, and so I would just bring them over to my apartment, and I would have all the alcohol there, and
yeah, 911.
That's right. That's right. Hey, it's 2021. I don't know if you can get me for it now.
So statute of limitations still it's expired on that.
But we partied at my apartment until about 4 a.m. And we'd be my apartment overlooked like Dayton Street, so we'd be chirping at all the people coming home from being out at the bars, and we had a great time. But that was the consistency of winning. When we went on that streak, we knew we had our crew, and anybody was invited to come to my apartment after the game. And even if you wanted to stop by during the bars, I mean, we'd have a few guys come in and just on their way to the bars, they just pop in my apartment, have a few drinks, and they'd go. I mean, that was probably, but doing it till 4 a.m. and having, a Bush Light box over somebody's head and all that, just running around the apartment. I mean, that's about as crazy as it got during the season. But, there's also other times where you got Mifflin and spring ball. There's other stories.
How come you guys never bring this up in the media sessions? This is great. I got to wait till now to get this stuff.
Well, because then we lose to Minnesota and everyone's like, oh, man, blame the guy wearing the Bush Light box on his head from Saturday night. He's partying too hard. It would create a forest fire.
Paul Chris ever come to any of these?
He got the invite every time, but he never showed up.
But yeah, players coach my ass. What does this win just mean for Luke Fickell and his future? I mean, does it move you in any way? Again, I found myself feeling happy for the guy. I'm not on board with everything he's done to this program. I don't think it changes a lot of what's gone on the last 3 years, but it is a win over a ranked opponent. It is one of the biggest wins this program has seen since 2021, maybe even before that. If you're looking at the big picture of things and everything this team, was dealing with at the time, we already know he's back in 2026, but obviously he'll be under an incredible microscope. And like I said, Chris McIntosh may have come to his defense Thursday, but, the temperature only rose because of that announcement. Does this do anything for you, or do you need to see him win 2 out of the next 3, get the axe back, and even see sustained success? Almost had a real problem there in 2026 in order for you to feel like, okay, we're on the right track here.
I think it shows the capability of this team, right? Like we are capable of winning football games this season. Like let's not worry about 2026 just yet. You've shown that the young talent that you have and some of the older guys with the leadership that they have, like you're showing that you can win football games this season. So I think getting the axe is huge because now everybody believes that this team is good enough to win. So getting the axe is going to be a big deal, but still haven't finding a way to to compete in these next several games. I mean, Illinois, another great opportunity. Indiana is obviously the biggest challenge of the year going into their house. So building off of this, going into this game, and then finding a way to compete and play at the level that you can play at. I think for Luke Fickell, that's to me like you still have a job to finish this year, and you've shown that you can win. So let's go do it again and again this season. Let's not worry about 2026 just yet.
I was laughing after the game. Do you follow the Scary Alvarez account on Twitter?
Yeah.
He's tweeting something like, "We're coming for the axe, PJ," and I was laughing at that. But I think there's something to that because like I said, I'm cynical as it could be, and even I'm starting to feel a little optimistic. I mean, dare I say there's some excitement around this team? Maybe it's just the fact that everyone's been staring into a pitch black tunnel, for the last year and a half, and there's been no light whatsoever. But it feels like I don't want to get in this roller coaster where okay, one win and I'm up here and one loss I'm down here, but
Yeah.
it does feel like there's some excitement around this team all of a sudden, and I almost don't care that I'm going up here right now because a lot of people deserve this. A lot of people have been waiting for this feeling for a long time, and you know what? It's nice to have again. It's nice to look forward to Saturdays again, and you know what? If I have to come back next week and drop the hammer, so be it. But for this week, I love the optimism that everyone has right now. Maybe not so much about Fickell and the future of the program, but at least with this team to know that Wisconsin has a chance to win football games again.
Yeah. And we talked about that from earlier in the season of playing at a high level, competing and finding a way to win ball games or at least stay in the big games because it will give fans that hope, like what you just said, that hope that we can win. Like there is a chance that we can compete and stay in this ball game regardless of the opponent. Um, doing that last night created that for fans. So now you'll probably have some more fans in the seats now because they want to see Wisconsin succeed, and they've shown that they can. So now you're giving fans hope again, and now the challenge is you got to do it again, and you got to be consistent with it. And you can't make this your Super Bowl, or this isn't. This can be a program changing win, in the fact that you build off of it, but it shouldn't be a program changing, like a program height win in the Fickell tenure. It can be a program changing, but it shouldn't be your highest peak when you're Luke Fickell, right? So that's the challenge, is going and building off of this.
What's it going to take to beat Indiana? Is it even doable on the road with this team and what they have?
Taking care of the football and controlling the clock, and then let this defense continue to play at a high level. This defense should be as confident as they've ever been all year. And you're probably going to come into the one of the biggest challenges. Probably, I mean, you have Oregon, Ohio State on our schedule we just played, but
Yeah.
you have Indiana, and then let's not forget that Bob Bostad is on the other side coaching this offensive line. This is a Bob Bostad Wisconsin revenge game here for him. He's going to try to run for 500 yards on Wisconsin like that. That is, and I guarantee you that is a legitimate like ask from Bob Bostad for this offensive line. This is a Bob Bostad revenge game in the trenches. So this is going to be really fun to watch between our defensive line playing at a really high level and Bob Bostad getting his boys ready to go at Indiana. But you have to continue to play at a high level for Wisconsin on defense. You have to prevent points and prevent big plays. And if you can minimize that and also minimize turnovers and taking care of the football and being able to stay in front of the sticks, then maybe we got another 10-3 ball game on our hands.
I know you were on the other side of the football, but what was Bob Bostad like? I hear the word scary thrown around a lot with him.
he he is you would think he was like a SEAL Team 6 veteran the way that he goes about his business. I mean, he is as intense as it gets. He demands a lot out of his players. I mean, he coached the inside backers too when I was still there, and then he ended up moving to offensive line. So we had him on defense too, and basically you were soft to him until you basically like knocked yourself out on a hit and got back up and hit somebody again. Like that is the way that you earned respect from Bob Bostad. You can't really earn it any other way. So, but he's a great coach, and obviously he's done a really good job with coaching offensive line, and he did a great job coaching the backers with us too. And that mentality though is contagious in his room, and I think that's one of his best qualities is his mentality gets implemented into his players, and that creates some really tough, hard-nosed guys. So it'll be fun to watch.
Do you know Riley Nowakowski at all?
Play with him for a few years.
Anything? He's revenge game on his mind for this one, or does he not feel any type of way about what he left behind?
I would assume so. Revenge game for a few people, and I don't know for sure, but I would assume so. And then also probably like getting excited to dap up some of the boys from the locker room and getting to see them again. But I think it's going to be some healthy competition there as well.
All right, we've got life again. Wisconsin at number 2 Indiana next week. We'll be back to break it all down and see if the Badgers can maybe not pull an upset, but at least continue the momentum off this Washington game.
Absolutely.